For the third year running, my birthday passed without a single call from my family. No texts, no cards, nothing. As I stared at my silent phone that evening, something inside me finally broke. I was done being the forgotten daughter who always forgave. This time would be different. I opened my laptop and clicked Book Now on a luxury Maldives resort package I'd been eyeing for months. My family had no idea that their forgetfulness was about to trigger the vacation that would change everything between us forever. The Chinese takeout containers sat empty on my coffee table, a sad reminder that I had celebrated my 30th birthday alone. Again, I sank deeper into my couch, scrolling through a silent phone that should have been buzzing with birthday wishes. 3 years in a row now. The first year, I convinced myself it was an honest mistake. The second, I made excuses for them. But this third time confirmed the pattern I had been denying my entire life. I thought back to my 12th birthday, when my parents had chosen to attend my brother James's regional baseball tournament instead. "We'll celebrate next weekend, honey," my mom had promised, squeezing my shoulder before rushing out the door, camera bag in hand. That makeup celebration never happened. Something more important always came up. As the oldest child, I had accepted my role early on. I was Alan, the responsible one, the self-sufficient one, the one who never complained when attention shifted elsewhere, the undemanding daughter who understood when family resources were directed toward James's college fund instead of mine. I put myself through architecture school, worked 80-hour weeks to establish my career, and now at 30, I had finally reached a position of respect at one of Atlanta's top firms. My parents bragged about my success to their friends, but in the same breath would forget basic details about my life. Last Thanksgiving, my father had asked if I was still doing that drafting thing. 7 years into my career as a project architect, my phone buzzed with a text from my best friend, Taylor. "Did they call yet?" I typed back, "What do you think?" 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "That's it. I'm officially adopting you. Happy birthday from your new family." Taylor had been pushing me for years to stand up to my family's neglect. "You don't have to make a scene," she'd say, "but you need to stop being available every time they snap their fingers while they can't even remember your birthday." I opened Instagram to distract myself and froze. There on my screen was a photo posted 4 hours earlier by my cousin Amber. The caption read, "Congratulations to Ryan on his graduation. Full family turnout to celebrate." And there they were. My parents, my brother James, my sister Melissa, my aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone, gathered around a cake at my uncle's backyard. On my birthday, my hands trembled as I zoomed in on my mother's smiling face. She wore the blue dress she had bought last month when we had gone shopping together. For special occasions, she had said. Apparently, my cousin's graduation qualified. My birthday didn't. I set my phone down and walked to my home office, pulling open the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside was a small box where I kept birthday cards from years past. I pulled out the one from my mother on my 25th birthday. "This year, let's finally take that girls' trip we've always talked about. Love you, Mom." That trip never materialized. Just like the spa day promised on my 27th birthday. Just like the family dinner celebration that was supposed to happen after they missed my 29th. Something shifted inside me as I stared at those broken promises. I had been saving for a down payment on a condo, being responsible as always. I had $94,000 in my savings account, money earned through countless late nights and working through weekends. I returned to my laptop and pulled up the website for the Maldives resort I'd been dreaming about for years. I had created a fake booking a dozen times, always closing the window before confirming. The overwater bungalows, the pristine beaches, the complete escape from reality. It had always seemed like an irresponsible indulgence. But tonight, as I clicked through the reservation process again, something felt different. The 2-week package with the premium overwater villa was showing a last-minute special rate. Still expensive, but under the amount I had saved. My cursor hovered over the Book Now button. Rational Alan would never do this. Responsible Alan would close the window and go to bed. But as I clicked Confirm Booking and entered my credit card details, a strange sense of lightness spread through my chest. For once in my life, I was choosing myself. The confirmation email arrived moments later, sending a surge of adrenaline through my body. I had actually done it. In 2 weeks, I would be on a plane to paradise, 13,000 miles from Atlanta, from my family, from the role I had played my entire life. The next morning, I walked into my boss's office before my first meeting. Richard Dawson was intimidating to most of the firm, but after 7 years working together, we had developed a mutual respect. "I need to request time off," I said after closing his door. 2 weeks, starting next Friday." Richard looked up from his computer screen, genuine surprise crossing his face. In 7 years, I had taken exactly 5 vacation days, and those were for a stomach flu. 2 full weeks? Consecutive? He asked, leaning back in his chair. Yes. I've already briefed my team on the Henderson project, and I can transition the Baker proposal to Stephanie. Richard studied me for a long moment. "You know, Alan, I've been waiting for this day. You work harder than anyone here, but there's something unsustainable about never taking time for yourself. It's actually been concerning to watch." His candor startled me. There's always been so much to do, and there always will be," Richard said, already entering my vacation into the system. "The work will be here when you return, hopefully with some color in your cheeks and fewer stress lines around your eyes." I hadn't expected such easy approval, nor the realization that my boss had noticed my self-sacrificing patterns. It seemed everyone could see it but me, and my family. That evening, I found myself in a department store, pulling dresses and swimsuits into a fitting room. I owned exactly one swimsuit, a practical black one-piece I'd bought 4 years ago for a client retreat. My wardrobe consisted almost entirely of work clothes and casual basics. Sensible, forgettable. The saleswoman brought in a brilliant turquoise bikini with gold accents. "This would look stunning with your complexion." I nearly handed it back. It was impractical, attention-grabbing, expensive. Instead, I tried it on, turning in front of the mirror in shock. I looked like someone else, someone vibrant, visible. I left the store with the turquoise bikini, 3 other swimsuits, 5 dresses, and 2 pairs of sandals I would never have considered buying before. That night, I researched excursions and spa treatments, booking a private snorkeling tour, a sunset cruise, and 3 different massage treatments. For the first time since I could remember, I wasn't thinking about work or family obligations. I was thinking about myself. My mother called the next day about the weekly Sunday dinner at their house. "We're doing a pot roast," she said. "Can you bring that salad everyone likes?" I agreed automatically, not mentioning my birthday or the upcoming trip. Part of me wanted to cancel dinner entirely, but another part wanted to see if anyone would remember, even belatedly. Sunday arrived, and I brought the requested salad to my parents' suburban home, the same house I'd grown up in. My father was watching golf in the living room. My brother James was texting on the couch, and my sister Melissa was helping my mother in the kitchen. "There she is," my father said without looking up from the television. "Hey, Alan," James said, glancing up briefly. In the kitchen, my mother took the salad bowl. Perfect timing. James was just telling us about his summer plans. He and Sarah are thinking about a road trip to Colorado. Dinner progressed with conversation about James's job prospects, my father's golf game, and my mother's garden club politics. Not once did anyone mention that my birthday had passed 4 days earlier. As my mother served coffee and store-bought pie, James cleared his throat. "Actually, I have some news," he said, his face breaking into a grin. "Sarah and I are engaged." The table erupted in excitement. My mother burst into tears. My father clapped James on the back, and Melissa demanded to see the ring that Sarah would receive next weekend at an elaborate proposal James had planned, despite already having asked her. "We're thinking of doing the engagement party the last weekend of June," my mother said, already pulling out her phone calendar. "That gives us about 6 weeks to plan." My stomach dropped. The last weekend of June was during my Maldives trip. "What do you think, Alan?" my mother asked. "You're always so good with these kinds of events. I'll need your help with everything, of course." I took a sip of water, buying time. "Actually, I won't be available that weekend. I'll be on vacation." 4 pairs of eyes turned to me in surprise. "Vacation?" my mother repeated as if I'd said I'd be on the moon. "Where?" The Maldives, I said, trying to keep my voice casual. For 2 weeks. The Maldives? My father frowned. That's halfway around the world. Since when do you take vacations? Since I decided I needed one, I replied. But Alan, my mother said, her voice taking on the edge I recognized from childhood disagreements. This is your brother's engagement party. We need to have the whole family there. I understand that, but my trip is already booked. Non-refundable. You can't change the dates? James asked, clearly annoyed. No, I can't, I said, surprising myself with my firmness. I've already arranged time off work and everything is confirmed. Well, that's inconvenient, my mother said. We'll have to see about moving the party, though it will be difficult with everyone's schedules. No one asked why I had booked this trip, or expressed any interest in my plans. By the time I left that evening, the conversation had shifted to whether they could find a suitable venue on an alternative date, with the unspoken expectation that I would ultimately change my plans. I didn't. The days before my departure flew by in a flurry of preparation. I researched Maldivian customs, downloaded books I'd been wanting to read, and bought a new journal with the intention of documenting my thoughts. The night before my flight, I stood in my bedroom looking at my packed suitcases, a sense of unreality washing over me. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Don't forget to send me those venue contacts tomorrow. I placed my phone on my nightstand without responding and turned out the light. Tomorrow, I would board a plane to a destination 13,000 miles away from that text and all it represented. The seaplane banked over a ring of islands so perfectly formed they looked artificial. Below, the water shifted from deep sapphire to pale turquoise as it approached the white sand beaches. After nearly 24 hours of travel, I was minutes away from the Amara Resort and Spa, my home for the next 2 weeks. First time in the Maldives? Asked the man next to me, a 40-something with a British accent and the relaxed demeanor of a frequent traveler. First time anywhere in years, I admitted. He raised an eyebrow. Then you've picked quite the location to break the drought. The seaplane touched down on the water with a gentle splash, taxiing toward a wooden jetty where staff members waited in crisp white uniforms. A young woman greeted me by name as I stepped onto the dock, placing a fragrant flower lei around my neck and offering a cold towel and welcome drink. Miss Winters, welcome to Amara. My name is Leela, and I'll be your personal concierge during your stay. Personal concierge. The concept was so foreign to me I almost laughed. Leela led me along wooden walkways that hovered above crystal-clear water, explaining the resort's amenities, until we reached the end of a pier that branched out like fingers from the main island. Here is your overwater villa, she said, opening wide double doors to reveal my home for the next 14 days. The villa was larger than my entire apartment, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Indian Ocean, a king-sized bed draped in white linens, and a private deck with steps leading directly into the lagoon. Most striking was a section of glass flooring in the living area, offering a view of tropical fish swimming beneath the villa. Is everything to your satisfaction? Leela asked after showing me the features of the room. I realized I had been silent since entering. It's perfect, I managed, still taking it all in. Thank you. After Leela left, I stepped onto the private deck and lowered myself into one of 2 loungers. The water stretched to the horizon, the only sound the gentle lapping of waves against the villa's stilts. For the first time in memory, there were no deadlines, no family obligations, no expectations, just me. That evening, I faced my first challenge, dining alone. The resort had 7 restaurants, and I had chosen the beachfront seafood option for my first night. As I approached the hostess stand, I felt the familiar tightness in my chest that appeared whenever I stepped outside my comfort zone. Table for 1, I said, half expecting pity in the hostess's eyes. Wonderful, she replied with genuine warmth. We have a lovely table right at the water's edge. As I followed her through the restaurant, I forced myself not to hunch my shoulders or avoid eye contact with other diners. The table she led me to was set apart from others, offering privacy and an unobstructed view of the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The waiter appeared, introducing himself and the evening's specials with no hint of the awkwardness I had feared. When he asked if I was celebrating any special occasion, I hesitated. Actually, yes, My birthday. Happy birthday. When was the special day? Last week, I said. Then we have some catching up to do on the celebration, he replied with a wink. The first glass of champagne is my gift. By the time dessert arrived, a small cake with a single candle and happy birthday written in chocolate, I had stopped feeling self-conscious about dining alone. When I returned to my villa, I decided to take a photo of the night view from my deck and post it to Instagram. No caption, no location tag, just the image of moonlight on water. I slept more deeply that night than I had in years, lulled by the sound of water beneath me and the knowledge that my morning had no schedule, no obligations. The next few days fell into a rhythm of simple pleasures. Morning swims in the lagoon, breakfast on my deck, reading books I'd postponed for years, afternoon spa treatments, evening walks along the beach. I posted occasional photos, a sunrise yoga session on the beach, a platter of tropical fruits arranged in a rainbow pattern, my feet in pristine sand, each carefully composed but never overtly boastful. I didn't tag locations or add captions beyond a simple sun emoji or wave symbol. My phone showed that my mother had seen each post, along with James and Melissa. None had commented or messaged me directly about them. It was as if acknowledging my vacation would force them to recognize they had forgotten my birthday. On my 5th day, I met Jordan, a travel photographer from Seattle, staying in a neighboring villa. We struck up a conversation during a group snorkeling excursion and ended up sharing dinner that evening. "So what brings you to one of the most romantic destinations on Earth all by yourself?" he asked over grilled fish and chilled white wine. I surprised myself by telling him the truth about my forgotten birthday, the years of being overlooked, and my spontaneous decision to choose myself for once. "That's actually badass," Jordan said when I finished. "Most people just complain about their families but never do anything about it. You made a statement without saying a word." "I'm not sure what statement I'm making exactly," I admitted. "That your time and happiness matter," Jordan said simply. "Most people never learn that lesson." Over the next few days, Jordan became my occasional companion for meals and activities, teaching me about photography and showing me how to take underwater pictures with his spare camera. Through him, I began to see the resort, and myself, through a different lens, capturing images that showed a woman I barely recognized, confident, joyful, present. One evening, I was video calling Taylor from my deck, showing her the sunset and filling her in on my adventures. "You look different," she said, studying my face through the screen. "More relaxed, but also more, I don't know, powerful?" I laughed. "I don't know about powerful, but I do feel different. Like I'm finally living my life instead of just managing it." As we chatted, a notification appeared on my screen. My brother had tagged me in a Facebook post, "Engagement Party Planning Group." I opened it to find a message from James, thinking June 25th for the party. "Alan, we know you'll be back from your trip by then, so no excuses. Mom needs your help with the catering contacts as soon as possible." The familiar anger rose in my chest, hot and sudden. No acknowledgement of my birthday, no interest in my trip, just the assumption that I would slot back into my role as the reliable daughter who handled details and never caused trouble. "What is it?" Taylor asked, noticing my expression change. "Nothing new," I said, showing her the message. "Just my family being my family." After ending the call with Taylor, I scrolled through my camera roll to the photos Jordan had taken of me earlier that day. One in particular caught my eye, a shot of me parasailing above the lagoon, arms outstretched, face tilted toward the sun. I looked fearless in a way I had never seen myself before. I posted it to Instagram with my first actual caption, "Finding freedom at 30. 2 weeks of celebrating myself. Best decision I ever made." Within minutes, my sister Melissa sent a direct message. "That resort looks amazing. Is this just a weekend getaway?" It was the first direct acknowledgement from any family member about my trip, and it completely missed the point of my post. I decided not to respond. Instead, I posted another photo the next morning, a shot of me in the turquoise bikini on the deck of my overwater villa, the endless ocean behind me. Then another that evening, a table set for one on the beach with candles and flowers, arranged for my private dining experience. The messages began trickling in. First from extended family members and old friends commenting with surprise and admiration. Then from my sister again. "How long are you staying there? Looks expensive." My mother finally texted directly. "Alan, are you checking your emails? I sent you some questions about the engagement party planning." I placed my phone on the bedside table and went to sleep without responding to any of them. For the first time in my life, I was unavailable, and it felt like the most honest thing I had ever done. 1 week into my vacation, I woke to find my phone filled with notifications. Apparently, my latest post, a video of my villa's glass floor showing colorful fish swimming beneath, had struck a nerve with my family. My mother, "Alan, please call me when you get this. I'm worried about you." James, "Hey sis." Tried calling but went to voicemail. "How much is that place costing you anyway?" Melissa, "Mom's freaking out. Can you at least text her back?" Even my father, who rarely texted, "Your mother is concerned. Call home." I set my phone aside and walked to my private deck, lowering myself into the infinity pool that merged visually with the ocean beyond. The water was cool against my skin, a physical reminder that I was thousands of miles from their expectations. After breakfast, I checked my email to find a message from my mother. "Alan, I don't understand what's going on with you. First, you refused to change your vacation dates for your brother's engagement party. Now you're ignoring all our messages. This isn't like you. We're worried you're having some kind of breakdown. James's engagement should be a happy time for our family, and your behavior is casting a shadow over it. Please call me as soon as you get this. Love, Mom." Not once in her message did she mention my birthday or acknowledge that perhaps there was a reason for my distance. It was still all about James, all about the family image, all about my deviation from the expected script. I closed the email without responding and headed to the dive center for my scheduled introductory scuba lesson, something I had always wanted to try but never had the courage or opportunity to attempt. That afternoon, Jordan and I took a small boat to a nearby sandbank, a tiny uninhabited island that appeared only at low tide. Standing on this temporary piece of earth, surrounded by nothing but blue in every direction, I felt a sense of perspective I had never experienced before. "Want me to take your picture?" Jordan offered, holding up his camera. The resulting image was striking, me in a white sundress against the impossibly blue water, looking peaceful but somehow stronger than in previous photos. When I posted it that evening with the caption, "Finding pieces of myself I never knew were missing," the response from my family escalated. My mother called 3 times in succession, then sent a text. "Alan, this has gone far enough. Whatever point you're trying to make, you've made it. Now it's time to be responsible again. The engagement party planning can't wait." My brother was less subtle. "What's with the cryptic posts? Are you trying to make us feel bad or something? Because it's working on Mom. She's been crying." Melissa's approach was different, a voice message that actually sounded concerned. "Hey Alan, so, I think I might understand what's going on. Your birthday was last week, wasn't it? And we forgot again. I'm really sorry. Can we talk about this?" It was the first genuine acknowledgement from any of them, and it caught me off guard. I almost called her back immediately, then stopped myself. Years of patterns wouldn't change with one apology. I needed the full space of this time away to understand what I really wanted from my relationship with my family moving forward. That evening at dinner, I shared Melissa's message with Jordan. "At least one of them gets it," he said. "That's a start." "Maybe," I conceded. "But what about my parents? Or James? It shouldn't be this hard for them to understand why I might be upset." "Families get stuck in patterns," Jordan said, speaking from experience. "Sometimes it takes something dramatic to shake things up, like booking a luxury vacation to the other side of the world." We laughed, and for the rest of the evening, I pushed thoughts of my family aside, focusing instead on plans for a sunset cruise the following day. The next morning, I received an email that sent a wave of disbelief through me. It was from my father, with the subject line, "Family gift for James and Sarah. Alan, we're putting together a group gift for your brother and Sarah to help with their honeymoon expenses. Your mother suggests everyone contribute $1,500. Please confirm you can transfer your portion by the end of the week." Dad, I read it 3 times. unable to process the audacity. Not only had they forgotten my birthday for the third consecutive year, but now they were asking me to contribute a significant sum to my brother's honeymoon fund while I was still on the vacation they hadn't acknowledged. Without thinking, I hit call on my father's number. He answered on the second ring. "Alan, is everything okay?" The familiar concern in his voice nearly made me back down, but I held firm. "Dad, did you really just email me asking for $1,500 for James's honeymoon while I'm on vacation?" "Well, yes. Your mother wanted to get it organized before the engagement party. Is there a problem?" "The problem," I said, my voice shaking slightly, "is that none of you remembered my birthday for the third year in a row. Not a call, not a text, nothing. And now you're asking me to contribute to an expensive gift for James while I'm trying to enjoy the first real vacation I've taken in years." There was a long pause before my father spoke. "Your birthday? Was that last week?" "Yes, Dad. It was. The same date it's been for 30 years. Alan, you know we've been busy with James's engagement and Ryan's graduation." I finished for him. "I saw the pictures on Instagram. The entire family managed to attend his graduation party. On my birthday." Another silence. "Now hold on," my father said, his voice taking on the defensive tone I knew well. "I don't appreciate this attitude. Everyone forgets things sometimes. There's no need to be dramatic about it. It's not dramatic to expect my family to remember my birthday, Dad, or to acknowledge that I might have feelings about being forgotten." Again, "You've never minded before," he countered. "You've always been the reasonable one. Maybe I'm tired of being reasonable while everyone else gets to be important." I heard my father's sharp intake of breath. "I think you need to take some time to cool off. Call us when you're thinking clearly again." The line went dead. He had hung up on me. I stood on my private deck, phone still in hand, a strange mixture of anger and liberation coursing through me. I had finally said out loud what I had been feeling for years, and despite my father's dismissal, it felt like a weight had been lifted. Within minutes, my phone began buzzing with messages from my mother, then James, then even extended family members. Word had spread quickly. The messages ranged from concerned to accusatory. "Alan, what did you say to your father? He's very upset. Way to make everything about you right when I'm celebrating my engagement. We're all worried about you. This isn't like you at all." The last one was from Melissa. "Just wanted to check if you're okay. Dad's pretty worked up, but I think you had every right to say what you said. Call me if you want to talk." Instead of responding to any of them, I did something that would have been unthinkable to the Alan of 2 weeks ago. I contacted the resort concierge and extended my stay by another week, upgrading to their premium overwater bungalow with a larger deck and private chef service. Then I posted a photo of my confirmation email with the caption, "Some experiences are worth extending. Week 3 begins tomorrow." By evening, the family text chain had evolved from concern and accusation to the first hints of reflection. My mother: "Alan, I've been thinking about what your father said you talked about. I feel terrible that we forgot your birthday. I don't know how it slipped all our minds. I understand if you're upset. It was a start, but it still missed the deeper issue. This wasn't about one forgotten birthday. It was about a lifetime of being overlooked, of my needs and wants being secondary. One apology wouldn't fix that, but at least it opened a door to more honest communication." As I prepared for bed, I reflected on how much had changed in just 1 week. The Alan who had arrived at this resort was almost unrecognizable from the woman I was becoming. I had found a voice I didn't know I possessed, and despite the emotional turbulence, I wasn't ready to return to silence. The beginning of my second week brought a new sense of purpose. Each morning, I woke early to watch the sunrise, journal in hand, documenting not just the beauty around me, but the internal shifts happening with each passing day. Day 10. I wrote one morning, "I've spent 30 years being the person everyone could count on to never make waves. The responsible one. The reasonable one. The one who understood when other priorities came first." I thought that made me good, but maybe it just made me invisible. After breakfast, I joined a morning yoga class on the beach, something I would have been too self-conscious to try before. As I moved through the poses, feeling the strength in my body, I realized how many experiences I had denied myself out of fear or a misplaced sense of duty. My phone rang as I was returning to my villa. Melissa's name appeared on the screen, and after a moment's hesitation, I answered. Alan, you picked up. I wasn't sure you would. Hi, Melissa, I said, settling onto my deck lounger. How are you? Your photos look amazing. I am amazing, I replied honestly. This place is incredible. A brief silence followed before Melissa spoke again, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. Listen, I wanted to say, I'm really sorry about your birthday. There's no excuse. We should have remembered. The directness of her apology caught me off guard. Of all my family members, Melissa had always been the most like me, the peacekeeper who avoided conflict. Thank you, I said simply. Can I ask you something? She continued. Has this been building for a while? The feeling that we take you for granted? I took a deep breath, gazing out at the endless blue horizon. Yes, for years. Honestly, I thought so. She sighed. I've noticed it too. The way Mom and Dad always expect you to handle everything without complaining. The way James gets celebrated for basic achievements while your big promotions barely get mentioned. You noticed that? I asked, surprised. Of course I did. I guess I was part of the problem too, letting it happen, taking advantage of your reliability. For the first time, I felt a genuine connection with my sister, a recognition that perhaps she understood more than I had given her credit for. I appreciate you saying that, I told her. It means a lot. So what happens now? She asked. When you come back, I mean. I'm not sure, I admitted. But things need to change. I can't go back to being the Alan everyone expects me to be. I get that, Melissa said, and I believe she did. For what it's worth, I like this new Alan. She seems happier. After ending the call, I felt a cautious optimism. Maybe this distance had created space for genuine change. Starting with Melissa. That afternoon, I met Jordan for our planned boat excursion to a nearby reef. As we snorkeled among vibrant coral and tropical fish, I felt a lightness that went beyond the physical buoyancy of salt water. For the first time in my adult life, I was living fully in the moment, unencumbered by obligations or expectations. When we returned to the resort, Jordan suggested drinks at the beachfront bar. 2 cocktails in, the conversation turned personal again. So has your family figured it out yet? He asked. Why you needed this trip? My sister has, I think, I said, stirring my drink. We had a good talk today. The rest of them, they're getting there slowly. Jordan nodded thoughtfully. You know, my family was the opposite of yours. Too intense, too involved, too many opinions about my life. That's why I started traveling, to create some distance. But whether they're too present or not present enough, family patterns are hard to break. How did you break yours? I asked. By being really clear about my boundaries, he said, and by being willing to walk away when they weren't respected. It sounds harsh, but it actually led to better relationships in the long run, more honest ones. As evening approached, I returned to my villa to change for dinner. I noticed several missed calls from Melissa and a text. Call me when you can. Need to tell you something. When I called back, she answered immediately. Her voice lowered, as if she didn't want to be overheard. Alan, I need to tell you something, but you have to promise not to freak out. That's not a promising start, I said, instantly alert. What is it? So, I was at Mom and Dad's house for lunch today, and I overheard them talking with James. They're planning to surprise you. Surprise me how? I asked, already dreading the answer. They want to fly out there, to your resort, as a make-up birthday celebration. My stomach dropped. They what? They think it's a grand gesture that will fix everything. Dad's looking at flights right now. They want to arrive this weekend and stay for your last few days. Without asking me, I felt my pulse quickening. Without checking if that's what I want, I tried to tell them it was a bad idea, Melissa said. That you obviously came there to have space, but they think you'll be touched by the effort. When were they planning to tell me? That's the thing, Melissa said hesitantly. They weren't. It was supposed to be a complete surprise. They were going to contact the resort to help arrange it. The very thought made me feel physically ill. My sanctuary, my space of self-discovery, invaded without my consent. Once again, my boundaries ignored in favor of what they thought was best. Alan? Are you still there? I'm here, I said, my mind racing. Thank you for telling me. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. But something. After hanging up, I paced my villa, trying to calm the riot of emotions. This was exactly the pattern I had come here to escape. The assumption that they knew better than I did what I needed. That my explicitly stated desire for space could be overridden by their idea of what would make things right. I called the resort concierge, explaining the situation in general terms and asking if they had received any inquiries from my family. They confirmed that someone had called asking about adding guests to my villa but had been told they would need my permission. Would you like us to block any such requests? Leela asked diplomatically. Yes, I said firmly. And could you also let me know if they book their own accommodations at the resort? With that contingency in place, I sat on my deck watching the stars reflect on the calm water, strategizing. I could message them directly and forbid them from coming, but that might escalate the situation. I could hide the name of the resort, but they could probably figure it out from my photos. Or I could face them on my terms, in this place where I had found my strength. My phone buzzed with a message from James. Hey sis, haven't heard from you in a while. Just checking in. Everything okay? The casual tone after everything that had happened infuriated me. It was so transparent. This sudden concern when he was likely part of the surprise plan. I typed back, I'm good. Enjoying my privacy and solitude. Looking forward to returning on my original schedule. Not earlier. His response came quickly. Nobody's asking you to come back earlier. We just miss you. I appreciate that, I replied, choosing my words carefully. But what I really need right now is this time to myself. I hope everyone can respect that. No response came, and I knew my message had been received and likely shared with my parents. Whether they would heed it was another matter entirely. That night, I lay awake planning for every scenario. If they showed up anyway, how would I respond? The old Alan would have accommodated them, swallowed her feelings, gone along with the surprise to keep the peace. But I wasn't that Alan anymore. And as the first light of dawn broke over the ocean, I knew exactly what I would do if they arrived uninvited. I would meet them, not with anger or accommodation, but with calm, clear boundaries. This was my time, my space, my journey of self-discovery. And for once, that would take priority over their need to feel better about themselves. 3 days passed without further contact from my family. I had almost begun to hope that Melissa's warning had been enough, that they had reconsidered their plan. Then came the email from the resort concierge. Miss Winters, as requested, we are informing you that 3 guests under the name Winters have made a reservation beginning tomorrow for 3 nights. They have inquired about arranging a private dinner with you tomorrow evening. How would you like us to proceed? So they had done it anyway. Despite my clear message, despite knowing this trip was about having space for myself, they had decided their need to make amends on their terms outweighed my explicitly stated wishes. I replied to the concierge, please do not share any details of my villa location or schedule with these guests. I will meet them in the main lobby at 7 tomorrow evening. I would like to reserve the beachfront restaurant for dinner afterward, at my expense. With the practical details arranged, I spent the day mentally preparing. I went for a long swim, then a massage at the spa, focusing on maintaining my center of calm. By evening, I felt ready for whatever would come. The following day passed in a strange limbo of anticipation. I knew my family would arrive on the afternoon seaplane, but I deliberately stayed on the opposite side of the island, giving myself space before the confrontation. Jordan, who had become a trusted friend, offered moral support over lunch. Remember, you hold the power here, he said. This is your territory now, not theirs. At 6:30, I returned to my villa to change, choosing a white maxi dress that I had bought specifically for this trip. Looking in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. Tanned, relaxed, confident. 2 weeks away from my old life had transformed me more than I could have imagined. At precisely 7, I walked into the main lobby, spotting my family immediately. They stood in a tight cluster near the reception desk, looking out of place among the relaxed atmosphere of the resort. My mother in a floral dress that was too formal, my father in golf clothes, as if unsure what to wear in a tropical setting, and James in his standard polo shirt and khakis. My mother saw me first, her face lighting up with a mixture of relief and uncertainty. "Alan, there you are." I approached them calmly, accepting their awkward hugs with measured warmth. "Welcome to Amara. I'm surprised to see you all here." "Surprise," my mother said with forced enthusiasm. "Happy belated birthday." My father cleared his throat. "We wanted to make it up to you. For forgetting your birthday. And for everything else," James added, not quite meeting my eyes. I nodded, taking in their nervous expressions. "I appreciate you coming all this way. I've made dinner reservations for us at the beachfront restaurant." "Oh, but we brought gifts," my mother said, gesturing to a small stack of wrapped packages they had placed on a nearby chair. "Shouldn't we go to your room first, so you can open them?" "The restaurant has a better view," I said firmly. "We can bring the gifts there." I led them through the resort to the restaurant I had selected, one with an open-air design that offered both privacy and a public setting. As we were seated at a table overlooking the water, I could see them taking in the luxury of the surroundings with wide eyes. "This place must be costing a fortune," my father commented, examining the menu prices. "It is," I confirmed, "and it's worth every penny." My mother placed a small gift bag in front of me. "We're so sorry we forgot your birthday, Alan. It was unforgivable. We hope this helps make up for it." I opened the bag to find a gold bracelet with a heart charm, pretty but impersonal, the kind of gift you buy when you don't know someone well. "Thank you," I said, setting it aside. James pushed his gift across the table next. "I got you something too, to say sorry." Inside was a gift card to my favorite bookstore. At least he had remembered that detail about me. As dinner was served, the conversation remained superficial. My mother commented on the beauty of the resort. My father asked about the activities available. James mentioned the engagement party planning was all under control now. No one addressed the real reason for the tension between us. Finally, as dessert was being cleared, my mother reached across the table to take my hand. "Alan, we need to talk about what's been going on. This isn't like you. Running off to a luxury resort, ignoring our calls. We're worried about you." "I'm actually doing very well," I replied, meeting her gaze steadily. "Better than I have in years. But this behavior," she persisted. "The passive-aggressive posts, the cold responses to our messages. It seems so unlike you." "That's just it, Mom," I said quietly. "Maybe the Alan you've known all these years isn't the real me. Maybe she was just the version of me that made everyone else comfortable." My father frowned. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means," I continued, keeping my voice calm despite my racing heart, "that for my entire life, I've shaped myself around what everyone else needed. I was the reliable one, the one who never complained, never asked for attention, never put my needs first. And in return, I became invisible. So invisible that my own family could forget my birthday 3 years in a row." "We said we were sorry about that," my father interjected. "We flew halfway around the world to make it up to you. Isn't that enough?" "The problem isn't just the forgotten birthday," I explained. "It's that when I finally took time for myself, instead of respecting my need for space, you decided to surprise me with a visit I explicitly said I didn't want. Once again, my boundaries didn't matter as much as what you thought was best." James shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "We were just trying to make things right. On your terms," I pointed out. "Not mine." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "We love you, Alan. We never meant to make you feel invisible." "I know you love me," I acknowledged. "But love without respect isn't enough." A heavy silence fell over the table as my words sank in. The sound of waves breaking on the shore filled the void, a gentle reminder of where we were and how far we had come to have this conversation. My mother wiped her eyes, then looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, a mixture of regret and realization. "There's something I've never told you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something that might help explain, though not excuse, why I've sometimes kept you at a distance." My father looked at her sharply. "Catherine, you don't need to do this now." "Yes, I do," she insisted. "Alan deserves to know." She took a deep breath before continuing. "I had a sister. Her name was Alice. She was 3 years older than me, and she died when I was 12 and she was 15. Leukemia. I stared at her in shock. In 30 years, my mother had never mentioned having a sister. Alice was so much like you, my mother continued. Responsible, thoughtful, always taking care of everyone else. After she died, it was like a light went out in our family. When you were born, and as you grew up showing those same traits, sometimes it was painful for me. Sometimes looking at you reminded me so much of her that I had to look away. Tears were flowing freely down her face now. I think I created an emotional distance without even realizing it. And that distance became a habit, a pattern I never examined. It's not an excuse for forgetting your birthday or taking you for granted all these years, but maybe it helps explain some of what you felt. The revelation stunned me into silence. All these years, I had interpreted my mother's emotional distance as indifference when it had been rooted in unprocessed grief. Why didn't you ever tell me about her? I finally asked. At first, you were too young. Then, as time passed, it became harder to bring up. Your father is the only one who knew. Not even James and Melissa know about Alice. My father reached across the table to take my mother's hand, his own eyes now glistening with unshed tears. We should have told all of you, but Catherine found it too painful to talk about. And I just wanted to protect her. James looked as shocked as I felt. I had no idea, he said quietly. I sat with the revelation, letting it settle into my understanding of our family dynamics. It didn't erase the years of feeling overlooked, but it added a dimension of compassion I hadn't had before. Thank you for telling me, I said finally. I wish I had known sooner, but I understand why it was difficult. My mother nodded, wiping her tears. I'm so sorry, Alan. For all of it. For letting my unresolved grief affect our relationship. For not seeing how much we've taken you for granted. You deserved better from us. From me. For the first time, I felt the apology reach the heart of the matter. This wasn't just about a forgotten birthday or an ignored accomplishment. It was about patterns established decades ago that had shaped all our interactions since. I can't promise I'll change overnight, my mother added. But I want to do better. We all do. My father, never comfortable with emotional conversations, cleared his throat. Your mother's right. We've taken advantage of your reliability for too long. It wasn't fair to you. Even James seemed genuinely affected. I never realized how much I counted on you always being there, always understanding. I've been selfish, sis. The honesty of the moment was almost overwhelming after so many years of unspoken feelings. But something told me that rushing to forgiveness, to making everything okay in this moment, would undermine the growth I had experienced these past 2 weeks. I appreciate everything you've said tonight, I told them. Really, I do. But I need you to understand that I can't go back to being the person I was before. I need boundaries, and I need those boundaries to be respected. Of course, my mother said quickly. Whatever you need. For tonight, what I need is some space to process everything we've talked about, I said gently. And I think it would be best if you stayed in your own accommodations rather than trying to spend every moment together during your visit. I could see my mother wanting to protest but holding herself back. We understand. We'll follow your lead on this. As the evening came to a close, we walked together to the main pathway where our routes would diverge. Mine to my private villa. Theirs to their shared family bungalow on the other side of the island. Can we see you tomorrow? My mother asked hesitantly. Maybe for lunch? Lunch would be nice, I agreed. At the poolside restaurant at 1. The goodnight embraces were different this time, less perfunctory, more meaningful. As I watched them walk away down the lamplit path, I felt an unexpected lightness. Not the complete resolution of 30 years of family dynamics, but the beginning of something new, something honest. Back in my villa, I sat on my deck watching the reflection of stars on the water, feeling the enormity of what had transpired. The revelations about my mother's sister, the genuine acknowledgement of how I had been treated, the tentative steps toward a new kind of relationship. It was more than I had expected, and in some ways, more complex. I had come to this paradise seeking escape and self-discovery. What I hadn't anticipated was that it would also become the setting for the most honest conversation I had ever had with my family. As I drifted toward sleep, I realized that the real work would begin when we all returned home, but for the first time, I felt hopeful that change was possible. The final days of my vacation unfolded in a way I could never have predicted. Rather than the boundary violation I had feared, my family's presence became an opportunity for a reset, conducted on neutral territory far from the patterns and physical spaces that had defined our relationships for decades. The morning after our dinner, I woke early as had become my habit, journaling on my deck as the sun rose. I wrote about the revelations of the previous evening, about my mother's sister and the grief that had shaped her parenting in ways none of us had recognized. I wrote about my complicated feelings, the empathy that now tempered my anger, the cautious hope that real change might be possible. When I met my family for lunch, the atmosphere was noticeably different. Gone was the forced cheerfulness and underlying tension. In its place was a tentative openness, a willingness to follow my lead. "We thought maybe you could show us some of your favorite spots on the island," my father suggested after we had ordered. "If you want to, that is." "I'd like that," I said, realizing I meant it. We spent the afternoon walking the perimeter of the island, stopping at the points that had become special to me over the past 2 weeks. The quieter eastern beach where I had practiced yoga each morning. The marine center where I had learned about local conservation efforts. The palm grove where hammocks hung between trees. My favorite reading spot. As we walked, the conversations flowed more naturally than they had in years. James asked genuine questions about my work projects, actually listening to my answers. My father, typically reserved, shared stories about his own early career struggles that I had never heard before. My mother, perhaps the most transformed, watched me with new eyes, as if truly seeing me for the first time. That evening, we had dinner at separate locations, honoring my request for space. But the following morning, I invited them to join me for breakfast on my villa deck, allowing them to see the private paradise that had been my home these past weeks. "This is incredible," James said, looking at the expanse of turquoise water stretching to the horizon. "I get it now. Why you needed this for yourself." Over the next 2 days, we established a rhythm of togetherness and separation, shared meals and activities, followed by private time for reflection. During one afternoon excursion to a nearby reef, my father and I found ourselves snorkeling slightly apart from the others. "I've never been good at saying the important things," he said, as we paused to rest, treading water. "But I want you to know I'm proud of you, Alan. Not just for your career success, but for having the courage to stand up for yourself. Even to us. Maybe especially to us." His words, so unexpected and sincere, brought tears to my eyes that mixed with the salt water on my face. "That means a lot, Dad." The night before their departure, we shared a final dinner on the beach, a special setup arranged by the resort with torches in the sand and a private chef preparing our meal. "I have something for each of you," I said as dessert was served. I handed each of them a small wrapped package. My mother opened hers first, finding a handcrafted photo frame containing a picture Jordan had taken of all of us on the beach the day before. "To new beginnings. Read the inscription. It's perfect," she said softly. My father received a locally carved wooden box that could hold his prized golf tees. "James," a hand-woven bracelet similar to one he had admired in the resort shop. "We didn't deserve this," my mother said, touching the frame gently. "It's not about deserving," I replied. "It's about moving forward." As the evening wound down, we addressed the practical aspects of our return to real life. The engagement party had been rescheduled for late July, giving me time to readjust after my trip. My mother asked, rather than assumed, that I might help with some of the planning, acknowledging my organizational skills while respecting my time. "And your birthday," my father said firmly. "We're going to properly celebrate when we get back. Whatever you want to do, no excuses." The morning of their departure brought a surprising wave of emotion. As we hugged goodbye at the seaplane dock, my mother held on a little longer than usual. "Thank you for letting us be part of this," she whispered. "Even after everything." "It's a start," I told her honestly. After watching their seaplane disappear into the horizon, I returned to my villa for my final days of solitude. The resort felt different somehow, as if the confrontation and resolution with my family had shifted something fundamental not just in our relationships but in my relationship with myself. Jordan found me on the beach that afternoon, camera in hand as usual. So the family invasion wasn't a disaster after all? I smiled, thinking of the past few days. Actually, it might have been exactly what needed to happen. Look at you, he said, studying my face. When I met you 2 weeks ago, you were running away from something. Now it looks like you're running toward something instead. His observation struck me as profoundly true. I had come to this paradise as an escape, but I was leaving with purpose. My last evening at the resort, I sat on my deck watching my final Maldivian sunset, the sky painted in impossible shades of orange and pink. I opened my journal to the last blank page and wrote, "I came here looking for space from my family, only to find that what we really needed was to meet in a new space, one without the weight of old patterns and roles. I'm returning home changed, not just by the beauty of this place, but by the difficult conversations it made possible. I don't know exactly what awaits me back in Atlanta, but I know I'm bringing with me a stronger sense of self, clearer boundaries, and the courage to maintain them. Some distances need to be crossed, while others need to be maintained. The wisdom is in knowing the difference." The flight home gave me time to prepare for the re-entry into my regular life. I knew that the real test of our family's transformation would come in the daily interactions, the small moments where old patterns would try to reassert themselves. My return to Atlanta brought immediate opportunities to practice my new boundaries. When my mother called the day after I got back, suggesting we have dinner that weekend, I explained that I needed time to readjust and unpack, proposing the following weekend instead. Instead of the guilt trip I might have expected before, she simply said, "Of course, that makes sense." At work, Richard noticed the change in me immediately. "Whatever you did on that vacation, keep doing it," he said during our first meeting back. "You look 10 years younger and twice as confident." The weeks that followed brought a careful navigation of my new relationship with my family. There were missteps, of course. Old habits emerged occasionally, like when my father automatically asked me to handle a situation with their insurance that would normally have fallen to James. But unlike before, these moments were recognized, sometimes with humor, sometimes with apology, but always with awareness. 3 weeks after my return, my family threw me a proper birthday celebration. A small dinner at my favorite restaurant with just the four of us and Taylor. My mother had framed a photo she had found of her sister Alice alongside one of me at the same age, the resemblance striking. It was her way of bringing her sister into our family narrative after decades of silence, a gesture that meant more than any gift could have. The engagement party in late July became a benchmark of our progress. I helped with the planning, but on my terms and within clear time boundaries. During the event itself, my mother made a point of introducing me to her friends with specific mention of my recent professional achievement, a promotion I had received shortly after returning from vacation. Perhaps the most significant change was in my weekly schedule. Before the Maldives, I had attended family dinner every Sunday without fail, arranged my work commitments around my family's needs, and been the default person to handle any crisis. Now, I attended Sunday dinner twice a month rather than weekly. I scheduled regular outings with Taylor and other friends that were never canceled for family obligations. And most importantly, I planned a solo weekend trip every quarter, small retreats that honored the discovery I had made in the Maldives. That solitude could be not just restorative but transformative. 6 months after my return, I was having coffee with Melissa when she observed, "You know what's strange? Since you've been setting all these boundaries, we actually see the real you more, not less." Her insight captured exactly what had happened. In creating space for myself, I had made it possible for my family to see me clearly. Perhaps for the first time, the invisible daughter had become visible not by demanding attention but by claiming her own worth. That evening, I found myself looking through photos from my Maldives trip, marveling at how a vacation that had begun as an act of escape had instead become a gateway to deeper connection, both with myself and with my family. The journey had taught me that sometimes we need to step away from the people closest to us in order to truly find our way back to them. This time on more equal, honest terms. The woman in those photos, standing on a pristine beach with arms outstretched, had gone seeking solitude, but had found something far more valuable: her voice. And once found, it could never be forgotten or overlooked again, not even by those who had missed it for so many years. In the end, My forgotten birthday had given me the greatest gift possible. The understanding that my time and happiness mattered, that I mattered, and that recognizing your own worth is the foundation upon which all healthy relationships must be built. Have you ever had to create distance from loved ones to reset your relationship with them? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need permission to prioritize themselves. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the greatest act of love is learning to love yourself first.